So this video today is going to be on a custom 15-ounce beveled edge mug. This is something that was ordered by a friend of mine who wanted a picture on the mug as well as her horse's name. So the part that you are not seeing in this time lapse right here is the part that happens before the sublimation print can be done. So what you see me doing here is measuring the mug. We need to measure the diameter and the height to make sure that our print is the right size and that when I'm cutting it here and trimming off the excess, it's going to fit appropriately. And then I'm going to clean it with a lint roller and a coffee filter to make sure that I get off any lint or dust or debris off of the mug before I start taping the print onto the mug with heat resistant tape to secure the print on there before it goes into the mug press. All right, while we're waiting for the mug press to heat up, the light will turn green when it's ready. Let me just go through the steps that we've already taken. I got a request for a custom mug using the special beveled edge, which that's this curved edge on the bottom here, whereas this mug is a straight edge. So this beveled edge mug, which has an interior color and a handle color. So it's a very nice mug. And I got a custom order request for this from a dear friend who I've known for a long time. She wanted a picture of her with her horse on one side and her horse's name on the other. So sometimes when you get a mug, the design is only on one side, and that's either so you can enjoy it when you're drinking your coffee or tea, or so that the other person can see it. But I typically do designs on both sides. That way you can enjoy it either way. And especially if I'm doing them for craft shows, you don't know whether the person is going to be left-handed or right-handed. So this particular one is a custom, and she chose the blue interior and blue handle. We chose some fonts, and she decided she just wanted to have the photo by itself. She didn't want to have like an embellishment or a frame around it. So I used Canva, which is what I typically use to design, and created that, and then she signed off on it. And what you saw me doing earlier was measuring, and it's really important to measure correctly because, as my dad taught me, measure twice, cut once, and that is not just for lumber, that is also for crafts. So you measure your straight edge, which is what you're going to sublimate on, to find out what you're going to design. And then when it comes around to the handle, as you can see here, and you'll see more in a minute, when I clamp this down, the handle is going to stick out, and there's going to be an edge on both sides of that handle that are not compressed by the mug press. So it's important for sublimation to have that pressure and heat. So in order to get a mug design all the way around, including under the handle, you would have to sublimate this in an oven. An oven is great. You would have to use shrink wrap with that because you'd have to get the pressure. With a mug press, the mug press is applying the pressure and the heat at the same time. The oven is just applying the heat. So this design is going to go about an inch from the edge of the handle. So this is beeped, so that means it's ready. So there's one step left to do. We use protective paper, and this is because when this sublimates, the sublimation ink that is on the other side that you saw earlier it's going to start to come through this paper, and that's normal for when something sublimates. So when you've got something like a flat heat press or a mug press like this, you have to put protective paper around it so that that ink does not get on your equipment, because it will reactivate when that equipment heats up the next time, and it'll end up on something you don't want it on. So we're going to just wrap some protective paper around this, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. It needs to cover the same amount of space as the sublimation covers. And this isn't to apply pressure or anything like that. It's really just simply to catch that excess ink that's going to start to come out during the sublimation process. So we just need to secure it so it doesn't slip as we put the mug in. And then we are ready to put it into the press. So I'm going to put this at an angle because this is a 15-ounce mug and they just fit. And then as I lower this handle, I'm going to keep a close eye on what I've got left hanging out to make sure my design is fully covered by that green part. That is what's applying the pressure. So this is going to take about 6 minutes. There's a series of lights on the top. As those lights go across, that means that the sublimation is progressing. And when the lights go all the way across, it will beep to let me know I need to lift the handle and take the mug out. And as the mug press is doing its thing, I'm gonna prep this other mug, which is a 12-ounce mug. So it's a little bit smaller. The measurements were a little different. I'm gonna make a logo mug with this one, and I printed that design, did all my measurements already. So I've just cleaned it. You want to get it with a coffee filter is what that is, because that is lint free, and that will get off smudges, fingerprints, that kind of stuff without leaving any lint behind. If you have lint on your design when it goes in, it can leave spots, like strange colored dots on your design. So I did not trim this one because I didn't have that guideline around it. So I'm going to trim that really quickly. It'll be much easier to center the design if I don't have a lot of excess paper on the end. Okay, so I've trimmed that down, and as you can see, the design is mirrored because it goes like this, and when it gets sublimated, it's gonna look the right way. But you have to make sure you mirror your designs on most sublimation blanks. Not all of them, if you're doing it from behind, like on glass. So the sublimation is going on the back of the item. It's going to come out the right way. If you're sublimating on the top of an item, you have to make sure that you mirror because it will come out backwards if you don't. So we're gonna trim the top and bottom as well. So I usually hold this up to the light to make sure my design is centered, and it is. And I'm just going to do a little pinch of the paper so that when I eyeball, I've got the handle facing me So that is the indication of where the center is. And then I can eyeball that and say, okay, yeah, that is centered. Both of these designs that I'm doing today don't go all the way to the edge because they're not a full color design. So you have a little bit more forgiving nature with that because you don't have bright pink going from top to bottom, and if you miss that top edge and you have a white streak, it sticks out like a sore thumb. But not all designs go edge to edge like the two that we're doing now. So I've eyeballed this, and looking at the bottom and the top, it looks straight. It looks like it's centered based on the handles here. So I've taped it on one side. Oh, and our mug is done. So I'm going to make sure that's really tight and tape it. And now bringing this back over here, I'm going to open this, and this handle is not hot, but the mug is. So I'm going to put the mug press out of the way and we can look at this together. This outer piece, like I said, is just that protective paper. And as you can see, I don't know if you guys can see it clearly, but I can see Cavalier's name, and I can see an outline of the photo. So if this protective paper had not been put on, what you see on the paper here would be in my mug press. So that's why we use protective paper. I'm just going to handle it by the handle. And this is very hot, but I'm just getting the edges of the tape. And I'm going to start to remove the tape. So we've got the top and the bottom, and now the two sides, and now for the big reveal. And it is still quite hot. I've been burned by hot glue many times in my life, so I'm used to it, but there we go. Take that tape off. So as you can see, I'm going to get my heat resistant glove on so I can actually handle the body of the mug without hurting myself. But as you can see, we had a full transfer. We didn't have any of it sticking outside of the mug press. So if so, you would see it would look faded in that area because the heat wouldn't have gotten to all of it. So yeah, it came out really great. And I think she's really going to be pleased. All right, so I'm going to let this cool down a little bit, and I'm going to put it over to the side. And as you can see, this is what the paper looked like when it came off. So not all of the ink transfers, and that's normal, but you can see it looks much different than it did before, and that is because most of the ink does transfer during the sublimation process. We mirrored it when we printed it so that it would come out correctly when we sublimated. Okay, so back to this one here. We have put the initial pieces of tape on just to keep it tight. Now we're going to put tape on to secure the paper down snugly. And I'm going to leave myself a little tab here to make it easier. And I'm going to just once again make sure I've got that tight before I finish taping it down. All right, and now we're going to tape the top and bottom edge, which with designs like these, like I said before, where you're not having a full edge-to-edge design, you've got white space, which will blend into the white of the mug. It's not as much of a requirement to get that really tight seal at the top, since there's no ink at the top to transfer, but it is a good practice to do that. So I didn't make my tape quite long enough, so I'm going to get another piece. Secure that down tightly. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. Okay, so we've got all our tape here, and the only thing left is to get that protective paper to protect the mug. And this is not going to be quite long enough. And I need it to cover the sublimation paper. So I'm going to cut that there. And I can save this other piece for another project. And just secure this down. And now we're ready. So the mug press is still ready to go. The light is green, so I am going to put this in, and this is a 12 ounce, so it goes in a lot easier. And like I did last time, I'm just going to be mindful. It does close more around the mug since this is a smaller mug, but I'm keeping an eye on how much space at the top. So now in about 6 minutes, this will beep and it'll be ready to come out. Most of the lights are lit up here, so this is almost done. So I've moved this back over so we can take a look at it. And when this comes out, this is going to have the Crafty Lab logo and some paw prints and QR codes and things like that on it. I'm going to get this ready so I can put the mug on this heat pad when it comes out. This one is a lot cooler now. This is almost feels like you've just poured hot coffee in it and you're trying to warm your hands up. So not uncomfortable, but still warm. All right, so it's beeped. So we're gonna lift the handle and that releases, and we're gonna pull straight up, and you can see there's some char on the paper, which is normal. And I am going to release that protective paper. And again, it might be a little difficult to see, but I can see the outlines of the logo, and oh, you can really see the QR code. The protective paper catches that so that it doesn't end up on your equipment. And I am going to start removing the tape. And one thing I can say about this process is that in order to get good transfers, you know, you have to use shrink wrap, or you have to use tape, and there is a lot of waste that goes along with it. So that is something that I struggle with sometimes, because I try not to be wasteful. But okay, you ready for the big reveal? Ta-da! And this was just something that I quickly designed, just so when I printed the other design, I would have a full sheet of paper printing, because 2 mugs will fit on the same, at least it would for this one, because this one is shorter than that one. But anyway, so this one turned out pretty good. I will test the QR code later with my phone, since I'm recording right now. This looks really good, and I could see myself putting this on my market table and putting like pens that are for sale, or giveaway pens or something like that. And it's just another way to advertise and get that QR code out there. So all in all, I think these came out really well, and I'd love to hear what you would like on a custom mug. If you would want pictures of all of your pets, children, grandchildren, you and your best friend, maybe your favorite saying. The possibilities are really just endless. Please, if you haven't subscribed already, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think and what you would want on a custom mug.